Hello everyone, this is Darren at GNB Productions, and today we're going to be looking at the 2018 Spider-Man video game, Spider-Man PS4. God, that was a short intro. Spider-Man PS4 was a PS4 exclusive Spider-Man title released in 2018, or as I like to call it, the year of Spider-Man. And it was and still is held in high regard as one of the best superhero games ever created, even rivaling the Batman Arkham games in popularity. And I'm here to tell you that yes, everyone was right. This game is great. I'd even go as far as to say that it's one of these adjectives. You pick whichever one you want. But, and this is a very small but. There are a few things that bug me about this game. And before I get into everything that makes this game godlike among other superhero games, I'd like to hurry up and brush past the very minute negatives I have. First, the Peter Parker puzzle gameplay, as well as the Miles and MJ stealth segments, could have been completely removed from this game entirely. These segments drag the pacing down significantly when you do these tedious and boring puzzles as Peter, or even these uninteresting stealth segments as Miles and MJ. It's not like these are like the worst things to ever be conceived in a video game, but the Spider-Man gameplay is so addicting and fun that when you're shoved to do these stealth and puzzle missions, it gets really boring and drags down the pace a lot. And for the puzzle segments, I know that you can skip them, but here's the thing. If you're going to implement something into this game and just give me the option to skip it right off the bat, then what's the point of putting it in the game to begin with? That's literally just a waste of space. Miles and MJ's stealth segments are a drag as well. The only ones I really liked were was when MJ was in Grand Central Station and when Miles was trying to avoid the Rhino. Both give off such an intense atmosphere and can really be investing, but the other levels are just kind of meh. Okay, those are literally all the negatives I had. Let's get into the good stuff now. The combat and swinging are easily the best part of the game for me, especially the swinging. The first Spider-Man game I ever played was Edge of Time, and while I really do like that game, it never gave me the authentic Spider-Man feel, and neither did the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in games. This game's swinging mechanics are freaking phenomenal. I almost can't put into words how satisfying it is to swing through the city alone. It's so good to the point that even though I've completed this game about 4 to 6 times already, I often find myself coming back just to swing through the city. That is how you know when you have a good Spidey game on your hands. When someone completed the game like God knows how many times, and they come back to it for the sole purpose of to just swing through the city. Now the combat is just as amazing. While fighting a group of thugs, you are always required to be consistently on the move to avoid close heavy hitters as well as far away sharpshooters, and this is handled perfectly. The gadget wheel, inspired by Ratchet & Clank, is brilliantly functional. It doesn't have a million uses, so it requires you to think on your feet with whatever gadget you have left. And it also does a perfect job at putting us in Peter's shoes, seeing that he can and will eventually run out of resources, and when that happens, you're kinda screwed. The web bombs are great for crowd control. The impact webbing can send enemies flying yards away, and it is so satisfying to use the seismic blast to completely annihilate people off of rooftops. Don't look at me like that. You push those guys off the roof with the intent to kill too. You sick fuck. The only one I rarely ever used was the anti-gravity one, and I feel like that one is just kind of pointless and dumb. And not to sound like that guy, but isn't that kind of weapon a bit too high-tech for Spider-Man? One really unique thing they did when concerning skins is that not only are they more incentive because you have to do street-level crimes in order to get them, but each suit comes equipped with its own unique suit power. I mainly stuck with the classic suit power, the Web Blossom, which has Peter spraying webs over every inch of the environment. It's so cool to look at, and it's really cool to use in large crowds of enemies. The boss fights as a whole in this game are alright. Most of them stem from swinging around and avoiding projectiles, and that at times does get a tad repetitive and stale. But when you're fighting different members of the Sinister Six, these get really innovative, fun, and challenging. The scenery and visual design of this game is fantastic. The game devs went out of their way to intricately design the city of New York. And from what I've heard from people who played the game and who also live in New York, it's pretty accurate. This city feels so alive, and this is something that this game holds over the Arkham games. Everywhere you go, there are people just walking around Central Park, chilling on rooftops, people walking through the streets, etc. These are such minute details that didn't have to be implemented into this game, but by God are they appreciated. The side quests in this game, I don't have necessarily anything to say about them in general. It's just that this game is so addicting that I guarantee that there is at least a 79% chance you want to do all of these side missions. This is literally the first game I ever went out of my way to 100% complete. It was just that fun. Some of these missions range from so dumb that I love it, and this is surprisingly intricate for a side mission. The Spider-Man stealth segments are okay, but it all comes down to the enemy AI. I expected the enemy AI to be a bit more aware, so to speak. You know, a bit more like the Arkham games, where the enemies know that they're being picked off one by one, and they continuously get more vigilant and freaked out. In this game, it happens literally every blue moon. This game has a ton of well-animated, Uncharted-style set pieces, and they're all amazing. Some people may chop it down to it just being cheap visuals with QuickTime events and whatnot, and I understand that complaint, but this stuff just looks so cool that I honestly don't care half the time. Now, this story and representation of Spider-Man in general is almost perfect. Yuri Lowenthal is really great as Peter. Every serious moment, every goofy moment, every sad moment, you can feel each tone perfectly, solely through his vocal performance. But there is one problem I have, and this isn't something to discredit Yuri Lowenthal. He's amazing in this role, but I feel like this game could have been 1,000 times better if they had got, I don't know, Josh Keaton to voice Peter. That's all I'm saying. That's literally all I'm saying. Honestly, this version of Peter has to be the best version outside of Spectacular Spider-Man. He's as humble, kind, and thoughtful as you'd expect him to be, and his confidence and attitude is funny and charming instead of seeming like an arrogant jerk. This Peter is all around the perfect everyman, like he's supposed to be. The best example of this is when he gets evicted from his apartment and has to go digging through trash in order to find his stuff. Responsibility echoes this version of Peter harder than I think any other interpretation because of the final scene. Being forced to sacrifice the last piece of family you have left in order for the people he swore to protect is straight up heart-shattering. MJ in this game is just okay. My favorite version of her has to be in Spectacular Spider-Man. You know, when she's not an annoying damsel and has a bunch of attitude and personality. She's pretty much Lois Lane in this game, and while I do love Lois Lane, Mary Jane is no Lois Lane. Her interactions and relationship with Peter are on point, but she just doesn't have the same MJ feel that I've been wanting ever since Spectacular Spider-Man. Miles is just okay to me in this game. I'm sure I'll have a lot more to say about him when I do my review of his own game, because we finally have a more defined version of Miles Morales, but in this game alone, he's just okay. I love the emotional connection Doc Ock and Peter have, and the clever story beats of us slowly helping Otto turn into this crazed, psychotic octopus man. That makes it a whole lot more interesting than just having him become Doc Ock out of nowhere, because, of course, we all know he will turn evil, but the emotional context behind it is what makes this version of Doc Ock my absolute favorite. This story perfectly captures who Peter Parker and Spider-Man are. I know you've probably heard this a bunch of times before, but this could have legit been a stand-alone Spider-Man movie, and it would be perfect. The characterization of Peter, the representation of each character, the overall structure of this story and the way it's told is dang near perfect. Overall, Spider-Man PS4 is a phenomenal video game. Its gameplay is addictive, its story is intriguing with really well performed and portrayed characters. This game provides dozens upon dozens of content to keep you busy, has amazing visuals, and overall is a must-buy if you already haven't bought it by now. So, by the time this goes up, the Miles Morales video game should already be out, and by the time this gets uploaded, I probably would have already beaten it. So, stay tuned for my eventual review of that. Anyway, you're just... If you agree or disagree with anything I've said, let me know right down there in the comments below. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. This is Darren at GNB Productions, and take care.